VCCircle. Today we have with us the CEO of Fortis Healthcare, Mr. Aditya Vij. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, good morning, Jasleen. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for being with us. So sir, if you could begin by telling us, you're present in the multi-speciality space, and then there's a small presence in super speciality, and then there's diagnostics. So do you see any potential besides these three buckets, and where, if there is?
So, primarily we're tertiary and quaternary care chain of hospitals, amongst the largest in the country, and we run also the largest network of diagnostic services in the country under the SRL brand, which is a subsidiary of Fortis. We continue to evaluate opportunities in other segments of healthcare because certainly there's much more to be delivered within India. Several segments of the population are not getting adequate attention for healthcare. So we will continue to evaluate other opportunities as well. At the same time, our growth pipeline keeps us quite busy. We've been rapidly expanding, as you know, once we took a decision to be back in India. So as and when opportunities arise, we will continue to look at them. Currently, our focus obviously is on geographical expansion and of course going further ahead in the specialties. For example, I think one of the disease patterns that is emerging now is oncology. Cancer, in fact, is a rapidly growing disease in India. That's an area of focus. As you're probably aware, we already have 5 centers for cancer, 2 in Punjab, 2 in National Capital Region and 1 in Bombay. We are looking at further expansion in that area as well.
And you mentioned that you're looking at expanding geographically, so what would be the target areas?
So there are segments that we are not covering. We have just announced, for example, we entered Ludhiana in January with a 250-bedded multi-specialty. We've also already broken ground on Fortis La Femme, which is a mother and child vertical, for a second facility in Ludhiana. Another facility that is in the offing in Bangalore, which should be already operational at the end of this year, is also mother and child under the La Femme brand at Sacred Heart, Central Bangalore. We're looking at further expansion of 210 beds at our flagship Bangalore hospital at Banarghata Road, taking it from 240 beds currently to 450 beds in about 2 years' time. In addition to that, there are certain cities where we don't have presence, where we'll be evaluating opportunities, and also growing our depth within the large metros as well. There's certain areas that we are not covering where there would be opportunities.
So there's definitely a huge expansion plan lined up.
Yeah, I think we've been known to create infrastructure fairly rapidly and expand our footprint. Like I said, there's so much of a gap in demand and supply today that whatever little we can do, we need to continue to grow.
How about bringing group's pharmacy business under Fortis? So what's your take on that?
No, I think we have a very healthy relationship with our group pharmacy business, and on an arm's length basis, we are dealing with them. They run all our OPD pharmacies. IPT, by and large, is handled internally by the hospitals themselves. That has been traditionally the case. If there are opportunities in the future, we can evaluate them. In the short term, that's certainly not the thinking.
Is it going to be organic growth that you're going to focus on in future, or how is it going to be?
So, like I mentioned a little bit earlier, we have a pipeline internally. Currently, we have commissioned about 4,800 beds. But we already have line of sight within our current facilities and available land that we have either directly or through our business trust in Singapore to expand that capacity to 10,000 beds.
Within the existing facilities?
Within either the existing facilities or existing land banks that either we own or the business trust owns. So clearly the focus is on filling this capacity first. On the other hand, we never rule out any interesting opportunity that may come our way, as we've already decided in the foreseeable future to continue to expand our footprint in India.
Sure, sir. And sir, how does the greenfield expansion for future, how is that structured? Would Religare be the main investor?
The whole idea of having the business trust relationship where you have the clinical establishment being serviced through the trust in Singapore was that we go ourselves as on an asset-light model by and large. On the other hand, there are certain opportunities that we may so choose to look at through direct investment route as well. Ultimately, our goal is to be overall asset light to the extent it's sensible. So some of the facilities, for example, I mentioned the Bangalore expansion that we are undergoing, that is under Religare Health Trust. So there are several assets that are already owned by the trust that we will continue to expand under them. And there may be certain assets that we own directly where potentially we will make the investment. So it is majority, to answer your question, is going to be through the trust. There could be a facility here or there that we may do
ourselves. Would it be like, the way it happened with Manipal, I mean, you sell it off later, would that be a possibility?
I mean, that's, from a financial structuring point of view, what we've realized is, our key strength is in excellent clinical services, the kind of work that we do in tertiary and quaternary care. We continue to go to a higher degree of specialization in the specialties that we are focused on, whether it be cardiac sciences, oncology, as I mentioned, orthopedics, neurosciences, and so on and so forth. At the same time, if there are other segments that we see opportunities for growth, we will certainly look at it.
Sure. And so what is your take on Singapore acquisition strategy to buy standalone hospitals? Is that also on the cards?
No, so I think we continue to evaluate options. In general, our stated goal is our focus is back on India. In the foreseeable future, we want to rapidly expand our network, delivering obviously on our operating margin goals as well. So I would say that if there is an opportunity to evaluate that and if there's a sensible way to do that, we may consider that.
But are there any acquisitions in the near future?
Not planned currently, certainly not.
Sure. And sir, what milestone have you set in terms of hospital beds, say in the coming 3 to 5 years, as opposed to what you have currently?
So we have stated in the recent past, as we basically brought our focus back on India, we expanded about 800 beds last year.
Yes, sir.
Our stated objective now is 500 to 600 beds every year. And we have obviously a pipeline. We are about to commission a 200 plus bed facility in Chennai.
When will that be commissioned?
In the next couple of months. Okay. It's nearing completion now and final approvals. Like I said, we are looking at Bangalore expansion. There's existing bed expansion in certain hospitals. So approximately 400 to 500 beds on average can, in a particular year where we launch a large facility, could be also 600 beds.
Sure. And so what is the sort of capex you're planning in the coming 3 to 5 years?
So, if you really translate, today's cost per bed to your expansion, it ends up being, give or take, just short of about a crore a bed. So when I talk about between 400 and 600 beds, about 500 beds a year. So that's the level of investment that you could expect that we'll be making every year.
And so how would
in addition to that, obviously, we have routine capex. So between 500 and 600 crores.
And how would that be funded?
So one is internal accruals. Like I said, we closed a very strong quarter now, significantly improved operating margins, very healthy top line growth. One is internal accruals, certainly, and our current debt level is 0.21, and if there are opportunities where we need to scale up, we may do so at an appropriate time. But as we've just discussed, that the Religare Health Trust makes it an asset-light model for us.
Sure.
So part of the funding is coming through the trust as well.
And sir, are there any plans to move the physical assets from SRL to Religare in the future?
No, not currently planned. Certainly, SRL has delivered excellent returns, phenomenal growth in the last couple of years in operating margins. They've delivered a margin of 20.9% in the last quarter. We are very encouraged by the growth that we've seen in SRL. And there's an operating leverage sitting at SRL. So, capacity is never a constraint. It's just a matter of scaling up operations through additional labs and additional collection points.
And now that we talk about SRL, the IPO for SRL was postponed 3 years ago. So are you looking at rethinking or bringing?
Yeah, I would say that we are evaluating options currently of unlocking.
So the market is better.
Certainly unlocking better value for SRL. Overall, I mean, it remains a subsidiary of Fortis Healthcare, but certainly there's a lot of value sitting at SRL.
But is there any future?
So we are evaluating options. Yeah. So as soon as we're ready to announce, we will. We certainly are evaluating options. As the market is better and the more conducive environment, and we have managed from high single-digit operating margins to over 20% within a matter of 3 years.
Sir, and by when and how do you plan to give exit to your investors whenever required in the future?
No, I mean, I think our investors are committed to support the growth plans at Fortis. And what, for example, we have asked from our team is to continue to improve margins depending on the maturity of the hospitals. That's really what the investors are looking for as well. So I think over time there are always exit options, and at an appropriate time they will plan to exit. I mean, we recently actually added investors in the parent company, as you know, on the hospital side of the business, whether it's IFC or Standard Chartered Private Equity. They have a certain horizon to work with us.
Sure. And sir, you still have some overseas assets in Middle East and Asia. So are you planning to exit there too to focus on India or?
So as I mentioned that, I mean, you were alluding to the Singapore asset earlier as well. I mean, we have a state-of-the-art reference lab in Dubai, which is doing much better. It was standalone at one time, but now, with focus out of India, our CEO Sanjeev Vashisht looking at lab operations directly, it's begun to do well. Honestly, we continue to evaluate our portfolio all the time. If there's a good opportunity, we may, so choose to say that 100% focus will be on India. At present, close to 95% of our revenues are coming out of India anyway.
And so Fortis flipped its strategy upside down, 2 years back. So, I mean, could you, shed some light over this, the reason behind it?
So I wouldn't call it a flip strategy or flip-flop strategy. I think clearly we became a significant player in India.
Yes.
We became the largest chain of hospitals, and we saw an opportunity to expand our footprint in Asia. And I think we did extremely well with the assets that we had managed to acquire. Margins in all our assets significantly improved. We made very good returns on our investments in the assets that we purchased at that time, simply due to the improvement in operations. We have refined an operating model that we could bring to bear on those assets as well. On the other hand, we did realize as the Indian market continued to grow very rapidly in the healthcare space, that perhaps it would be we would be serving our people better by our focus being back on India. And I guess I would call it a flip-flop. Over a period of 3 years, we went in, we improved margins, we made good returns, and sensible. And I think all the benefit of both our learning as well as returns have come to the Indian shareholders.
And sir, talking about the deals that are happening in healthcare now, what is your take on that? DM Healthcare, Manipal, Life Sciences?
So, healthcare is one sector where we're going to see continued growth simply due to the gap in demand and supply. And obviously, several groups who have a desire to participate in the Indian healthcare space are looking at opportunities to tie up with Indian groups. And I guess from our perspective, our plate is so full that other than our current investors, I mean, we are not out there looking for additional tie-ups. All we want to do is straddle both spaces, continue to go up in our level of performance in the clinical space by getting into more complex treatments, but also looking at the broader market and covering segments where we may not be present today.
And sir, lastly, is there a possibility of you joining hands with one of the largest, South-based chains to create a bigger competition to Apollo? Is that on the cards?
So I think my philosophy, sir, today, when you always look at a competitive landscape. On the other hand, my philosophy is we have so much to do ourselves, with much lower number of beds, we are neck and neck in revenues today with our main competitor.